Hey guys, what's going on? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Hope you guys have been having a well Tuesday. It's Tuesday right now. Here now in my car. Just wanted to come on and make a short video talking about a certain topic that the Lord, I think the Lord's been teaching me as of recent. So, yeah, what are we talking about today? We're talking about passivity, talking about being a passive man, how to overcome passivity. And guys, I'm 21 now. I just turned 21 about like 4 months ago. And this is something that I've seriously been learning myself. I'm absolutely learning this right now. Like, this is literally right now something God's been teaching me. And this is something that has been something that I thought about a lot. Because I find myself sometimes abdicating like the, I guess, responsibilities that I had, like things I know I should be doing, I'm not doing, right? And that, I believe, is like the quintessential definition of passivity. You're not doing what you're supposed to do as a man. Like this is like being passive as a man. And then one way or another, that thing gets fulfilled, whether it be like, I don't know, like somebody else steps up, or another thing. But yeah, today we're talking about passivity. What does that look like, biblically speaking? How can we address that, biblically speaking? And how can we as men kind of grow, right? To be more like Christ, to be more fruitful, right? So again, this is all going to the. This is all for the glory of God. This is not all for me growing as a man for the sake of being a man, right? Ultimately, our eyes are set on Christ. Our eyes are set on being like Christ. Our eyes are set on pleasing God and pleasing God, whether that be through, our marriage, through our family, through our responsibilities that we've been given, our purpose, our career, whatever we have, right? This is all to the glory of God. So, passivity. What does that look like, biblically speaking? What might that look like, biblically speaking? We can have an idea in our minds, whether we think of, maybe that husband that's sitting on the couch the whole day, wife is angry at him, marriage is not good, or somebody who, let's say, abdicates their roles, abdicates their responsibilities as a man, and things begin to fall apart. Like the wife steps up. This is Genesis 3, right? Where Eve is told by God that you will desire something about, I can't remember exactly, but she will desire authority over her husband, right? She will desire to take the authority over her husband, and that happens, right, when we're and that can happen when a guy is not stepping up, right? And I've seen this in my own life, right? Absolutely. So, but a biblical story that I want to point to for being passive is the story of Ahab and Jezebel. This is in the Old Testament, where in the kingdoms of Israel, right? Ahab was one of the kings of Israel, and Ahab was actually known as one of the most wicked kings of Israel. It's written in the Old Testament that Ahab was one of the most wicked before God, kings before God. And I don't have the exact scriptures on me, unfortunately, but what we know is that Ahab married a woman named Jezebel, and Jezebel was the daughter of a Baal priest from another country, right? And she, of course, held on to these practices too. And what happened was Ahab essentially let this Baal worship be integrated into the kingdom of Israel. And he allowed Baal sacrifices, Baal worship, and if you know anything about that, right? I mean, it's terrible things. There's things like child sacrifices. There's things like Baal's a fertility god. So this is all like these horrible pagan practices were now being implemented into Israel. And then this was through Jezebel, right? This is Jezebel. If you read about the story of Elijah, Elijah feared Jezebel because she so much hated the prophets of God, because she was from such a pagan background. Like she was pagan, But the point I want to make here is that Ahab, he did have responsibility over Israel, right? He did have this responsibility to protect Israel, spiritually speaking, and this protection that he had over the kingdom, right, to guard it from outside enemies, to guard it from inward threats. I said spiritually, but like any threat, right? It can be very similar to how we see things like as a man, like as a father, as a husband, where we're protectors of our family in that same sense, physically, spiritually, etc. But Ahab had let this enter in through Jezebel, through allowing this to happen. You see, he could have not let it happen. That could have been a possibility. He could have let this not happen by simply just shutting it down and like saying, we're not going to let this happen in the kingdom of God. We serve Yahweh. We serve God, not any strange God, any strange foreign deity. We serve the one true God. But he still let this happen through Jezebel. He had that responsibility to protect the kingdom, and he abdicated it. And through his wife, right, the wife overtook and took that responsibility over. So, and again, I'm paraphrasing, and I hope I'm getting this correct. I do not have my Bible open with me, unfortunately, but that's the story of Ahab and Jezebel, and how that can apply to us is something that the Lord's been teaching me these past few weeks. Because, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's been certain situations in my life where I feel like I have been passive, where I feel like I have been kind of letting that go and letting things kind of happen without me kind of getting involved. Like I said, I'll do something, and then like I end up not doing it, or I know I should be doing this, but I'm not doing it, like whether it be schoolwork or something else. And one key takeaway that I think the Lord's been teaching me is that to kind of defeat passivity, to become, I guess, an active man, right? It first begins with what responsibilities we have in front of us. I was so concerned with what I thought I was supposed to do, these grand scheme ideas, right? I'm a student now. I commute with, I live with my parents, but I was thinking, like, man, what do I need to figure out how I can become a husband, how I can create that in me, right? I mean, that's such a big goal. It's such a vague kind of goal. There's not really anything to kind of step on, right? But even in that, I did not know what to do. So I was just really anxious, and like I was really like worried, like, man, I need to know how I can become a husband, how I can become a father, and what steps can I take, what videos can I watch, what things can I learn about. But the point I want to make is, like I said, it begins with the things in front of us, what responsibilities we have. Jesus said, to whom much is given is much required. To whom much is given, right? Jesus gives this to us. God gives this to us, right? And I think about the parable of the talents. Each of the servants were given talents, 1 talent, 2 talents, 5 talents. Each of them were given. And there's a certain amount that God's given to each one of us. God's given us, each one of us, a certain amount of responsibility. He's given me, for example, I have my schoolwork. I'm a university student now. He's given my responsibilities to practice, church music. For Sunday mornings, I play on the worship team. I'm also part of like a Christian club on campus, and I sometimes help lead Bible studies there at those men's small group as well, doing things for them, and these responsibilities are just what's in front of me, right? I could be pondering so much how I want to change my character to be a husband, and these very kind of general, vague ideas of what I want to become, what I want to do. But in reality, right, it begins with, okay, I have certain responsibilities, I need to do them. And these responsibilities are set before me and are immediately accessible by me right now. And I need to make sure that I'm giving my all in these things, right? That I'm not abdicating my responsibility in this. You see, Ahab had the responsibility before him to protect the kingdom. He had his responsibility before him to defend the kingdom from these strange gods, right? From these things, and this is, and I mean, this is the kingdom of, this is the kingdom, this is Israel, right? This is God's nation, and like this nation belonged to God. It didn't belong to Ahab. It didn't belong to anybody else, right? This wasn't a secular kingdom. This was a kingdom. This was a theocracy, a kingdom run by God. But he forgot the whole reason he was there, the very first thing, right? So I guess the point of what I'm trying to make is each of us have these certain responsibilities, and I feel like this is what the Lord's been teaching me, that in order to become more of an active man, less passive, we need to stop being passive with the small things we have, right? And we need to understand what God's given us so that we can give our best foot forward in these things, right? To do this all to the glory of God, right? Whether it be your schoolwork, your job, right? Maybe you're married, maybe you have kids, right? But all these things we do in front of us to the glory of God. Each of these things, right? We do because God's given us to them, and we do it unto the glory of God. Like, seek first the kingdom of God. That's how we, and we do these things to seek the kingdom, right? In order to glorify God through them, right? So that's how I believe. That's what the Lord's been teaching me these past few days, right? To not abdicate my responsibilities in the small things I've been given. And I think about the parable of the talents, right? The servants. To the servant that didn't use his things that he was given, right? That was taken away from him. Jesus spoke to that man who had the talent and the one talent, and he buried it. He didn't use it, right? And that talent was taken from him and given to somebody else, right? Either way, God's going to get the glory at the end of the day. God's going to get the glory at the end, the glory from that talent at the end of the day. If we don't use our talents that God's given us, God will take that away from us. And I mean, that doesn't mean we're not going to be not saved, right? Lose our salvation. But in the grand scheme of things, when we look at God as our Father, right, and we're not using the things that we've been given, right, God could just take that away from us, right, and bring that out of our life. And maybe that's something that you notice in your own life, right, where you've been abdicating your roles, abdicating your responsibilities. And maybe God's telling you to get back onto that thing. To begin to actually, put your best foot forward in those things, right? And when we do that, right, we're using what God's given us. We're giving our best step in that, right, to the glory of God. So, I guess to make a point in this is that with each of the talents that God's given us, right, He's given us a certain amount. And God knows that amount as well, right? And we should know that, and we should know what's in front of us as well. We just need to be faithful with that, right? We just need to be faithful with what we've been given, so that we can have more. If we're single right now and we'd like to get married, right? We should probably figure out how I can, even what's in front of me, like, how's God preparing me for this? Maybe like asking God, like, we should ask God, like, to prepare us to be ready. And what that might look like is becoming more responsible, right? Maybe getting a job, right? Figuring out, like, okay, there's some certain character deficiencies that I should probably ask God to root out of me, right? To refine me out of these things. So that's the point of what I wanted to talk about is just being faithful with small things, and when we're lazy with these things and we're not using them right, God knows that, and God can take those things out of our lives. I had an example in my own life where I think I over thought it, and I really kind of over spiritualized it in that, and I ended up stopping doing that when I could have just continued doing it. what it was is I was playing in the jazz band at my university, right? And I was playing the bass. I'm a musician. I love playing bass. And I was playing in the band. Things were going fine. Things were going fine. I was playing in the band, and then I was converted. Then I came to know Jesus. I was radically born again, and my whole mindset really shifted about this, about everything. And what happened was when I came to go to jazz band, I felt a really deep conviction, that I should use this that I should use my bass playing for God and God alone. And that's not to bind somebody's conscience, right? That's to just say what was going on in my mind, right? I was playing in the jazz band, and when I went, I just felt like I couldn't play there, like I couldn't play worldly music, and it just really didn't sit well with me whenever I went down there. And I was continuing to pray and ask God, should I leave? And eventually I did end up leaving the jazz band. But looking back on it, I remember feeling super, super condemned whenever I went down there. And I just felt I felt super like everything was lost, like everything was gonna go bad, right? And looking back, I understand that was Satan trying to condemn me, right? I don't believe there's anything and again, this is for each person's situation, right? But this is just what was going on at that time. I don't believe there was anything necessarily sinful with me playing jazz music, because what happened was I actually ended up meeting a guy in my Christian club who's now the bass player, and he's a Christian. He loves the Lord, and he uses bass playing the same way I do. He's a bass player, and he plays bass in church, and then he also does it in the jazz band as well. And the guy's a wonderful guy, loves the Lord, and and he's playing jazz, and he's super similar to me. It's kind of weird. He loves jazz music. He loves playing a love for music. But what made me realize though was that when I left that, somebody God would put somebody else in there as well. And that when we kind of let go of these talents or these opportunities that God's given us, somebody else, God will give that to somebody else, right? And it's completely impartial, right? God shows no partiality, right? So when we kind of let go of these things, somebody else is going to take care of them, right? And maybe it's in a relationship, maybe our wife's going to step up, right? And that's probably not going to look good, right? When we leave the responsibilities just to one person or any such situation, right? Where we leave it and then somebody else gets it. And it may not be a bad thing. It may not be a bad thing, but it may not be a good thing as well. Again, this all depends on the situation. But the point of what I'm trying to make is, when we do leave these things, God takes it and gives it to somebody else, right? So we should be extra diligent to take care of what we have in front of us. So hope that was helpful to you guys. Hope that was edifying, encouraging. Maybe it was helpful to you in some sort of way. If you guys are liking these videos, if you guys are thinking this insightful, helpful, edifying, please let me know in the comments. Please drop a like so that other people can see this, if this helped you in any way, sort of all. Hope this has been well. Maybe I'll continue to post more videos in the future, but thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys later. Peace.